came in two ways. One way was that prevented the formation of families, that is, fostered illegitimacy. And it's easy to understand how this happened. Just imagine that you're a 16-year-old girl in some ghetto apartment. You scarcely know your father. He occasionally visits. Perhaps he's drunk a lot of the time. He doesn't have a job. Your mother is under terrible stress trying to discipline her boys who are often out in the streets in gangs. The neighborhood is rife with crime. Within the household itself, there are serious tensions between you and your mother. It's just a very difficult and trying way of life. And the government, however, offers a deal to this 16-year-old girl. It says you can leave all this. You can have liberation in an apartment of your own. You can have access to some 17 different social programs. You can have free medical care, free legal assistance if you need it. You can have several $100s a month free, all on one condition. And that one condition is that you have an illegitimate child.
So, when you were on welfare, you got, did you get cash welfare? You certainly got food stamps, your rent was paid for, medical treatment was paid for. Was everything paid for by the government?
Yes, everything was paid for by the government, but keep in mind that Uncle Sam is cruel to the poor. These programs don't work for them. We have over 4,000 housing projects in this country. It's not working for the people. You just get addicted to it like any other drug, and you start depending on that life, and it just spirals you into a little dark hole.
I've been making the point this week that the recipients of this kind of extensive entitlement program, the recipients are actually destroyed by it. Now, that's a very strong thing for me to say. Would you agree with it?
I absolutely agree. The recipient is not only destroyed, their personal dignity, and then they become much more addicted all of their life, but the whole communities are destroyed. Let's look what happened, for instance, in the black community, the impact of this entitlement mentality and welfare, government dependency. After the war on poverty in the 60s, we began to see an unraveling of the entire black community because the family collapsed. During the 60s, the black family was pretty healthy. 78% of husbands were in their homes with their wives raising their children. But after this lure to government that said you don't have to work, you don't have to save, you don't have to get married, over time marriage stopped occurring to where now 7 out of 10 black children are born outside of marriage. And what happens when you don't have that intact family is your values change. So your culture changes, so your community changes.
Well, you're out there now very publicly saying that entitlement, the entitlement mentality is a very bad thing. It destroys community.
Here's the follow to an 8 on your side wants to know story that we first told you about last night. A woman living in a small motel room with 12 children has a new place to stay tonight. The children have food, new clothes, and beds to sleep on. News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson's been working on this for the past couple of days, and he joins us now with the very latest development. Jeff?
Gail, 37-year-old Angel Adams says 15 children, 12 of them are still living with her, and when we met, they were staying in a small motel room. That difficult situation has now changed.
The Action News 5 investigators uncovered a secret inside the Fraser community. At least 90 girls at Fraser High School are pregnant or have had babies within the school year. Tonight, one of those teenage mothers is talking for the first time only on 5. Good evening, I'm Joe Birch.
I'm Ursula Madden. We have just learned from the Tennessee Department of Education those 90 girls make up roughly 20% of the female population at Fraser High. Action News 5's Jamel Major has the story you'll see only on 5.
In my day, no able-bodied adult male could receive welfare or even live in a household that received welfare. In my day, no able-bodied adult male could receive welfare or even live in a household that received welfare.
The welfare state tells you that you're optional, that all your struggles, all your labors in the workforce are unnecessary, that as a matter of fact that you can support your wife and children best by leaving them. That's the deal that the welfare state offers the man in the ghetto. And not surprisingly, over the years, increasing numbers of men have left their families.
That's absolutely right. The welfare state has done to black Americans what slavery could not have done, the harshest Jim Crow laws and racism could not have done, namely, break up the black family. That is, today, just slightly over 30% of black kids live in two-parent families. Historically, from 1870s on up to about 1940s, and depending on the city, 75 to 90% of black kids live in two-parent families. Illegitimacy rate is 70% among blacks, where that is unprecedented. The government has said to many young women, I am the father. Yeah, and so the father, black males, have become dispensable.
Black illegitimacy was 19% in 1940, but it skyrocketed during the Great Society, and now it's over 70%.
Yeah, it's over, and that's a heck of a start in life. That is, where to be born, you don't know who or where your father is. That's not really a great start in life.
A man by the name of Frank Hatley has been in jail in South Georgia for the past year because he hasn't been paying child support, right? Well, it turns out that the boy that he's not paying child support to isn't even his own biological son. And prosecutors knew that before throwing him in jail.
So when did his girlfriend get pregnant?
His girlfriend got pregnant in 1980. Okay? He thought it was his son, so he was paying child support, everything, right? And then in the year 2000, they had a DNA test which indicated that the boy was not his. So what they ended up doing is they had him pay child support anyway. So he was still paying child support. At what point he lost his job and he became homeless. And he couldn't even pay child support. Like, he couldn't even pay for a place to live or food to eat. But he still tried to make child support payments from his unemployment checks.
Now that's after he already found out it's not even his kid?
Yes, this is after he found out it's not his kid. How unbelievable is the story? They still made him pay this child support. And then finally, he just couldn't do it anymore. He had no money, he was out on the streets, and they're like, you know what? You're not paying, so we're going to throw you in jail. He's been in jail for the past...
Look at the son of a bitch prosecutor and judge in this case. I mean, if I'm that prosecutor, no way I bring that case. He knows. He knows he's not the dad. He knows the guy is homeless. He knows that he already made thousands of dollars in payments and did the best he could. And he puts that guy in jail. The judge listens to the case and goes, oh, yeah, right. Send his ass to jail. Now, you tell me those guys wouldn't hang someone on a shred of evidence, okay? Now, I know I'm stretching it, but there's no way in the world I would trust them with someone's life or death. And there are prosecutors and judges like that throughout the country. So we can make some mistakes, but we can't make the ultimate mistake with somebody's life when you got prosecutors and judges like this running around. And with human beings what they are, you'll always have these kind of vindictive assholes. So, no, can't have it.
This is one of those cases where once he gets a chance to get out or whatever's going to happen to him, he gets vindicated for his positions. That, you know, these are the times when you come up with an extreme lawsuit and you say, I want $10 million because you ruined my life. You know, these are those situations when it should come that way. We talked about it before when he said, oh, maybe you can just take, like, I forget what the case was. And he said, oh, would you take $15,000 because that guy got hit by the bike? That's what it was.
Right.
This is one of the things, they ruined his life.
Yeah.
And completely and utterly wrong, and knowingly wrong. That's when he should get about $10 million.
Have we reached a point of building so many prisons that the purveyors are now looking for ways to keep them all full?
Here's the way a private prison works, okay? You pay somebody to build a fancy cage. Then you fill it up as far as you can get it, which is pretty full. Full of people that, the people that built the cage get paid $40,000 or $50,000 a year to just keep in the cage.
You have corporations like Whacking Hut, they just changed their name, Corrections Corporation of America, that house prisoners, nonviolent drug offenders. As a matter of fact, I think 60% of the increase in prison population under Bill Clinton, which was like 1 million people, of the 60% of that new prison population are nonviolent drug offenders.
Now, if you've got 5,000 people in your cage and you're being paid $30,000, $40,000 a year for them, that's a lot of money. And if you can, on top of that, use them as your private property, as chattel property, that you can then make do work or produce things that you get paid for on top of that. What a great deal. Now, where I come from, when you transform a person into a piece of property, that's called slavery.
Our politicians and judges are very clever, and they're very greedy, and they're very cruel people. They're sociopaths and psychopaths. And it's our politicians, judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement people who are in on this game. Now, over half the people in U.S. prisons have never been convicted of a property crime or a violent crime. And I don't know about you, but I think that probably well over 3/4 of the American people will agree that no one should be held in prison who's not been convicted of a property crime or a violent crime. They took the right for ordinary citizens to own slaves away, and they gave themselves a monopoly on the right to own slaves and use the prison systems to do it. This is why we have private prison corporations in the United States. It's also the reason that we have 25% of the prisoners in the world, even though we only have 5% of the world's population. We are the #1 prison nation and slave nation in, it's even been reported that Dick Cheney has invested $85 million in a private prison corporation. So, if you want to stop this, and if you agree with me that the people that are criminals are our politicians and judges who are maintaining a slave system through the prison system, we can liberate over 1 million people who are sitting in our prisons, including children who have never been convicted of a property crime